It might be. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you fine. Uh-oh. Pick it up, Veronica. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Shared Spaces with LaQuida and Chap. Tonight we don't have Chap on, but we do have Veronica from Monarch Butterfly. Veronica,
how? Can you hear me? Because I can't hear you. Wait a minute.
I can hear you, Veronica. I can hear you.
You can?
Yes, we're talking.
Okay, I can't hear you is the problem. Hold on.
We've been struggling.
And now we're getting feedback. Wait a minute.
Here we go. All right. I'm not sure what the problem is right now, but we just had it, y'all. We were backstage trying to get it together. So let me figure out what's going on with Veronica. But welcome to Shared Spaces with Quida and Chap. I am LaQuida Chancey, the founder and director of Smalltimore Homes, and we build micro shelters and tiny homes here in Baltimore for people who are experiencing homelessness. Are we here having feedback again?
Yeah. Not sure what's.
Oh, so she's listening through her. I see what's happening. It's because she's listening through her computer. Turn all of your computer devices down. Like all of the computer devices should be on mute, and you should only be listening through the phone. So Veronica is the founder of Monarch Butterfly, and they are a development company here in Baltimore. And we've been working on looking at some projects here in Baltimore, which is what I wanted to discuss. And it sounds like, all right, are you there, Veronica?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I lost the picture. Can you see me?
I can see you fine as well. That's why I was trying to get you to stay on your computer, because I knew that would happen. Okay. But that's okay. Real life.
We'll just continue on if you can see me.
Yep, real life in the virtual world. Yes, I see your picture behind you. I can see the light. So, Veronica, from Monarch Butterfly, one of the projects you just wrapped up was your caterpillar program. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It is a pleasure to be here. Hopefully the audience figure itself out during this time. Let's see. And okay, so let me tell you just a little bit of background for me.
Okay, so let me say this. Speak slowly.
Okay. I'm speaking too fast. Okay. Veronica from Monarch Butterfly Enterprises, thank LaQuida for inviting me to come on your show this evening. It's exciting to be here, and it's an exciting time actually to just be in Baltimore because there's a lot going on. When I got started in 2016 with my company, I had this pair of glasses, and I'll show them to you because they sit on my desk. Teresa gave these to me when I started, and she said, look at these buildings that are vacant with rose-colored glasses. And so with that, I started my company and started buying vacant property from vacant use. And sort of the rest is history. Now you can really more has big glasses on because it's so exciting and the opportunity to come here and to restore vacant homes is endless because we have 15,000 vacant homes. The Caterpillar program is really a program that I started because so many people were stopping me when I was restoring my last house, and you saw it, Quida. It was so beautiful.
It was, and you were developing the Caterpillar program, though, even Well, yeah. How long did that project take you? Let's start there. You said you were starting the Caterpillar program, but even before then, you were getting into vacants to values, which is a Baltimore City DHCD program, I believe, is driven to eradicate, vacant homes and lots here in Baltimore. And like Veronica mentioned, and like I've mentioned, 15 to 16,000 of those are on the city's roster, on the city's, deck. Never mind those that are owned by people who are, speculative and holding on to property, or just slumlords for that matter. So, yeah. Veronica, programs like yours are absolutely necessary in Baltimore. So you were saying vacants to value is basically how you got started, but that the program, the Caterpillar program, is for new developers like myself, or newer developers, I would say, like myself. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, the Caterpillar program really started, it started because I wanted people to know what it's really like to restore a home. It's not like HGTV, and it's not 6 weeks. It's much longer than that, especially homes have been vacant for 10, 20, 30 years. And in my last house, which you got to see, that project, it took about a year and a couple of months, especially because COVID entered our work and really slowed down the supply. And I learned firsthand how that impacted my project. Went up, delays were there, and it was real. And I think when you're, especially in a historic, it takes a lot of work. And Baltimore is unique. We have homes that are not like other cities, because you go to California and other places, and they don't have the type of buildings and architecture that we have here in Baltimore. So it takes a lot when you're actually renovating in a healthy way, which is what we do. And part of our philosophy as environmentalists themselves is to make them healthy, and do that by reduce, reuse, recycle throughout the whole house, and doing things like blown-in insulation and eco-smart things throughout the home and features throughout the home that are sustainable. So therefore, it's reducing your carbon footprint, and it's also reducing your electricity bill when you have natural sunlight come into the house because you have skylights. And when you have a tankless water heater that isn't running all the time, it's only running when you're using hot water. So when you have those elements in your home, and when you have a home like that, it's really reducing, this large footprint and this high electric bill, which we know just keeps going up and up.
Up and stuck. Yes, ma'am. So I totally agree with that Baltimore has a lot of unique issues. And so one of the programs that I know that you've used in the past is the historical chat program. That one you're super familiar with. Did you have to use the, actually, first tell us slowly about what CHAP actually is. I know it's a historical tax incentive.
Yes. So we go into detail in the Caterpillar program, really detailing this incentive, which is CHAP. Now, CHAP stands for Commission of Historical and Architectural Preservation. So what it is it's an incentive if you're in a historic district that you can apply for. So you can apply for one if you're a homeowner and you happen to live in a historic district, before you put your windows in, you can apply to CHAP. And with that credit that you will receive, first of all, before you receive it, let me go back. So before you receive it, you're going to fill out different things. And again, we go into detail. It's an application. It's what are you doing? What type of windows? All the details in describe how you're going to restore your home in this historic district.
Okay.
So all of those details get put in a package. You're going to apply that approval, and you cannot start your construction until you receive what they call an authorization to
An authorization to proceed? Is that what you said? Okay.
Yes.
And so once you get, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Once you receive the authorization to proceed, then you can start, like they say on TV, demo day. but you can't start and you can't get that credit. Now, what that credit is they're going to look at all the things that you're doing to this house, and they're going to lessen your tax bill on the other end. For example, let's just say you're going to do a full gut rehab.
Okay.
And the full gut rehab that you're going to do on the house, let's just say it costs $300,000. I'm just throwing out a number. So that's $300,000. You're going to submit all the paperwork, everything that you're doing, and then the city's going to come back and give you a credit and freeze your taxes for 10 years. And so really, it's a building tool, because when you think about if somebody offered you the opportunity to have your taxes, and again, I'm just throwing out a number, let's just say they lowered them to $200 every year for 10 years. Think how low your mortgage is.
Right. No, it definitely adds up. Not only that, I think about how it's a way to, I guess, to combat gentrification in a way, because of the rapid development. I'm sure it happens in some parts of Baltimore, but because of rapid development in most other cities, it places people who are already in these communities that are being gentrified outside of the city limits, where there aren't resources. The buses don't run as much. There aren't as many gas stations and grocery stores. So it creates an even more of a burden to just, live and try to sustain. So this CHAP program, I doubt that it was created to combat systemic racism in that way. So what was it started for? Was it because so many of these Baltimore homes have been sitting and dilapidated, and it helps to make it worth the while to even start the investment?
That's a good question, because when you think about Baltimore's history, think about restoring vacant homes, we can go all the way back to when you talk to other people, they talk about the dollar homes, how they sold houses in Federal Hill for $1. This was probably back in the 70s and 80s. Now, I would have to double check for sure. Was the CHAP credit available then? I'm not sure. But there were opportunities and incentives during that time. And so those people were allowed those incentives. I think fast forward to 2000, and you can look at Federal Hill, you can look at Kingston, you could look all the way down Bells Point and some of those areas. And so if you had a credit for 10 years and your taxes were $200 a year for 10 years, well, come time for that 11th year, and then your taxes went up to $10,000, that person is now going to either say, we're moving or we're selling. And so you could say, and some people say this, is that Fells Point, Federal Hill, and some of those neighborhoods, that's the reason why some of the people are moving. And I've heard people say that before. But I also know that these incentives happen around in Baltimore, and that not all the developers are using those tools. So that is just one of the things that we talk about in the Caterpillar program, because so many people are coming from outside of Baltimore and they don't know these incentives. And so what we do in the program, the Caterpillar real estate program, we take you through your whole journey. Okay, how do you buy a house that's vacant? What are the things that you should look for? How to put together the soft cost versus the hard cost, and all of those things to really make sense before you even apply. Because I think for a lot of people, again, it goes back to HGTV, which I love.
Right.
All those shows, but they don't show you everything that you really need to consider before you take it on. And you know, I think on Flip or Flop, they'll say something like, if you have a hard money loan, hurry up, because every day that interest is going ching 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 ching.
Yes,
ching, ching.
it's building up. I was definitely, so to your point, Veronica, when I started, I would leverage my 401k and hard money loans. But to your point, Baltimore wasn't really, you know, focusing on the homes that you focus on as much as that's where I wanted to make an impact. That business model, it just didn't work out. It just took way too long. So I found myself, you know, looking for homeowners that are like, you know, I'm leaving Baltimore, or this house is more of a burden than it needs to be. I'm looking to downsize, and, you know, kind of relieving a pain point rather than addressing blight. So that's why I love that, you know, you had the Caterpillar program, and then to kind of bring it into today, you and I speaking about, hey, maybe, you know, Smalltimore Homes and Monarch Butterfly can talk about doing some things together. You know, we know that for those who are, you know, up to date with the tiny home movement, Appendix Q was a big deal because that allows us to account for loft space, which means you don't need, you know, as big of a footprint. And just like you said, Veronica, like another one of the issues or things that I'm dealing with the city is the, you know, the concept of completely off grid and renewable energy. Because one of the issues is that tiny homes can't be completely off grid. We have to tie into utilities. We have to, you know, pay the electric and the water, although, you know, water comes from the sky. Electricity we can capture from the sun. Like there's ways that instead we can empower people to use renewable sources so that they're not relying on municipal services. We can compost, you know, toilets, use composting toilets, and, you know, have our own food and vegetable gardens, all these different things, but there's so much legislation. So should you and I work together, you know, we have to do everything along the lines. Can't be my normal Quida self that is like, hey, I'm going to ask for forgiveness, not permission. So we have to build to the 400 square foot minimum or bigger. I think, what do you think about tiny homes in Baltimore? I think it could really help to increase the desirability to live here, as well as increase population, because we've lost, you know, nearly 500,000 folks since the 80s and the 90s.
Right. Well, first of all, I'm so glad that you were able to take the class and that it really helped you to look at the numbers and some of the rationale and moving forward with different projects that you're assessing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because to your point, I don't think I would have considered these homes that I really want to target, like the ones that have the trees growing through them, because no one's going to touch them, So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's really a challenge when you take a vacant home. And I think, I think people today who are taking on homes, they're either in a couple categories, the fix and flips, which a lot of people are doing that, fix and flip. Then there's people who are just buying and selling. They're just wholesaling.
Right.
And then there's people like me and you. We want to restore homes.
Right.
So we want to restore homes and we want to bring back that beauty. My partner is my mom, Joy Owens from Joy Owens Interiors, which I started working with my mom probably 20-some years ago. And I got to see from the football stadium that she worked on to a bunch of projects that she worked on with Betty G. Murphy from Civic Development, which she was just a pioneer in her time and one of the first Black women-owned developers in Baltimore City that really took on elementary schools and started restoring them and making them into senior housing. So what me and Joy do, we really like to bring back the integrity of the historic detail back to those homes.
Right.
And it really takes a lot. That's why, not everyone does it to that detail. As far as tiny homes, I think first of all, I think we have to do more education here in Baltimore and educate people on what is a tiny home. Could I live in one?
Yes.
And not only thinking about the small container homes, but thinking about smaller dwelling. There's a lot to be said for those 2-story row homes. And they might be small in size, but they're just can be very charming. And to somebody who's just starting out, they could be really beautiful. And that is really a tiny home to a lot of people, a 2-story row home, because some of them are very, very small.
Right.
But I think maybe we start talking about just living vertical and then infusing more of what you do with Smalltimore in tiny homes and making that really grow. Maybe it has to be infused into the neighborhood associations, part of their community meetings, to start this dialogue, and so that people can start thinking about it. Could you see this in your community? Could you see yourself living here? Because I think the opportunity for that is now. Especially we have people that are homeless. We have people that are graduating from high school, even, that instead of renting an apartment, why not
live in a tiny home? Right. I mean, and to your point, there's so many different populations. Like, I imagine that there would be, a tiny home community for LGBT youth, should they choose to live, gathered together, but not to exclude anyone, but just to make sure that there are communities that are specifically inclusive to populations that are normally excluded. And to your point, homelessness, like building the micro shelters and the prototypes, like those were the reasons that Smalltimore was started. Like, hey, let's give away these prototypes. Let's give away these things on the street. But again, we got to do things by the book. We don't want, that to be a hazard or an issue, an eyesore. But to your point, Veronica, it's a great idea, like community listening sessions.
Yeah.
Smalltimore Homes, at the end of every month, we have a financially lit workshop where folks can call in and ask questions about tiny homes. But to your point, targeting not just community associations, which I had been doing in the past, but homeowners associations and condo facilities, like those places as well, because they can expand and they may have people who want to downsize from whatever their typical, structure is. So that's a really good idea. Something like a tiny home college.
Yeah, I love that. It's this tiny home conversation, and that conversation, should we take that to Morgan to start that dialogue?
It's funny you should say that. Justin, what is Justin's last name? But Justin Fair, who was a Morgan graduate last year, he and I worked the year before last. He and I worked on a project basically discussing tiny homes in the Black community, because your favorite TV station, HGTV, we don't see many of us in the tiny home limelight. We see the tiny home shows, but it's very few, first of all, Black folks, but also Black women. You know how difficult it is to find someone that looks like us in the industry. So that's a great point.
Yeah, and I think tiny homes, even, why not for the weekend sign up for a tiny home marathon? You're building a tiny home over the weekend, and you're bonding with other people, and you're going to build a home, and then that home is given to whether it's a homeless person or whether it's a student who just graduated, or how about somebody who comes from the Vogue Tech, that's
your carvers, your
right. It could be an apprentice in plumbing or carpentry.
All of those are needed. Welding, even, yeah.
And so I think that Smalltimore college, that we need to really, we need to jump on board your band and help you to build tiny homes.
Yeah, I love that, because it almost sounds like one track would be for people who want to purchase a tiny home. But then another track could even be, to your point, the workforce development, like I do with the volunteers. And instead of building prototypes, we're building actual tiny homes, and people are learning these skills. And like you said, partnering with the carvers, I think there's like 3 schools that still do the HVAC and the construction kind of stuff. But Whiting Turner, there's a couple of other builders out here that have developer programs in addition to the Caterpillar program offered by Monarch Butterfly.
Right. But I mean, certainly my program gives you an overview, but I think you sort of coupled and married with the tiny homes with Smalltimore.
Yeah.
I think, for all the people who go away to different destinations, why not take Bonding Girls Weekend and build a tiny home? It could go in your backyard and be your new office.
Right, a little she shed. Mama needs a place to park her butt and kick up her feet and relax, That's a great idea. Have a weekend getaway of building, but not only building a tiny home, but building relationships, learning to build new skills. Yes. That would be really cool. Yeah. And all in the Smalltimore College. I love it.
Right. So we need to figure out how we can kickstart that. Maybe some sponsors are listening so that they can sponsor you so that we can kick off a series of those or a couple and get that off. That would be awesome.
Right.
And I would love to be a part of that with you.
Yes, Veronica, thanks for being the first to sign up, because building tiny home communities is definitely something that, ultimately is what we want. We want people to be able to live in their own ecosystem, but not just survive, but to thrive,
Thrive.
Yeah. So I like that. You guys need to chime in. Let us know. That's a great campaign, and we can do a tiny tour, talk to folks, educate them about the tiny home movement. And then, like you said, all the benefits, lower footprint as far as your carbon footprint goes, your utilities, the resources you're using, the upkeep, all of it is like minimal, I love it.
I think it would be great.
So when is your next Caterpillar program? Because I think you're doing them more frequently now, right?
Well, we had one. We had one the last quarter, and this one is actually this Saturday.
Oh.
So for anyone listening, they can either reach me on Instagram, which is Restoring Baltimore, or they could reach me on my email, which is Butterfly ECO Homes, Baltimore, Butterfly Eco Homes at gmail.com. They can reach me there to get more details and information about the next workshop. And we have a couple of in-house seats left if somebody wants to attend. We kept the seating really low because of COVID, but we have a couple seats left for in-house. And then there's also virtual if you want to just want virtual and listen and chime into the conversation. So we really look at the classes as a conversation. It's a conversation on learning how to purchase a city-owned property, or even purchase a property that you might be looking at to renovate yourself as a first-time home buyer. Had two people in my last class, and they ended up buying houses. They were first-time home buyers, and they bought this, and they knew what to look for when they walked into the house, and they knew how to put together their budget. They talked directly to the people that were part of the program, so it really helped them. So these two people, they attended about 60 days, and now both under contract with their home. So that's exciting. So praying that they get to closing and close up.
That is exciting. So you said praying that they'll get to closing. What are some of the reasons that so I'll start with some of the reasons that I know people don't get to closing. Financing is number one. I don't understand. Folks, do not open new credit. Do not transfer between bank accounts. Do not buy a car when you are looking to buy a home. Like, all of your credit needs to be stagnant like a lake in the summertime. Don't move any cash. Don't do any back transfers from accounts, because all of that raises a red flag. But there's also inspections, appraisals, and all types of other things. Veronica, what have you seen? What have you seen as a common theme in your world, either to stop or to slow down some for your projects?
Well, I don't get into the credit counseling part of it. I really get into really putting together a whole total budget.
Okay.
I would say the majority of the people who come to my class, I would say 3/4 want to buy vacant homes in Baltimore City. And then 1/4 of them, and I'm starting to see more, are first-time home buyers that want to get educated. And I think one of the beautiful things that I kick off the class with, and I know you were part of it, is and you're part of the book too, is the Black Butterfly from Dr. Brown. I start off the class really talking about the history, how we got here.
Because it is so important and it guides a lot of what we see today. So knowing the history is important. So yeah, go ahead. You talk about the Black Butterfly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we kick it off and we talk about the Black Butterfly, why these neighborhoods look the way they are. But and then we talk about the potential and things that are on the rise and people that are doing things like Read from Parity. And there's a bunch of other developers I could start naming. Black Women Build. You've got Shelley doing things in Upton. So there's a lot of things that are happening all around the Black Butterfly and all around Baltimore City. And I think if you drive around, you don't really see those things, but they're there and they're happening. And it just takes a while to renovate a home. People need to understand that. But there is a lot of activity happening in all parts of Baltimore City, east and west.
Yeah.
And so we're finally seeing some progress. And I know we've talked about this all the time, but it's just so exciting to see it now, and exciting to see really all the possibilities, all the opportunities, the funding, even opportunities that come for housing, that people want to come here and they want to be in Baltimore.
Yeah, it is. It's very exciting and surprising, and definitely something that I think that, but I think for some reason, Baltimore has always been a speculative city. I think people have often purchased properties with the intentions of sitting on it. And so there's often been, money coming into Baltimore for real estate. What I'm glad to see is that communities are turning around and that schools are being looked at. I won't say that they're being maintained any better than before, but they seem to be moving students around to buildings that are healthier than we've seen in the past, right? Because Baltimore, we know there's a lead issue, among other things. What do you think about that type of development? The bigger schools and industrial type things.
Yeah, I absolutely think it's wonderful. And again, I was part of it early on with Joy, with Savannah Development, because she did so many schools. I think one of her first projects was That Place, which is in Park Heights.
Wow.
On Ricestown Road.
Yeah.
No. Okay, that's a different project. But Alcott Place was one of her first projects. And that was exciting, to see an elementary school turned into senior housing. So I think now you can probably point to numerous things that have been changed into some shape or form of housing, whether that's senior housing, whether that's affordable housing, whether it's commercial on the first floor. You can look at one of the best examples that's happening now, the 400 block of North Howard Street, and seeing the transformation there. I worked at Baltimore Development Corporation, BDC, during the early 2000s, and it's just exciting to see all the movement there, and all the businesses come in, and the beauty in those buildings. I mean, you have to get out your car, actually.
Right, to see the architecture and appreciate it and enjoy it. Yes, I'm glad to see that Baltimore is doing a good job at focusing on restorative development instead of
Yes.
demolishing, although we know that it can be demolish heavy in specific areas. But that's something that, Nika Namdi from Fight Blight Be More is working on. So we're always, tackling the things that need to be tackled. But it is very interesting to see the different silos that are being developed, and to see that, communities are beginning to turn around, and that with this new influx of money that's coming into Baltimore, that we can contribute in an even, more impactful way going forward. So that is exciting.
Yeah, and we need to figure out. We really need to tap into our young people, our young men that are unemployed, that are just really, maybe they're just recently coming back into the workforce.
Right.
Maybe they had some problems in the past, but there needs to be some kind of a training program. Because our carpenters and some of our skilled laborers are getting older, and we need to get the young people trained, and we need to have a bunch of new electricians, a bunch of new carpenters, and can we get some new finishers that really know how to finish? And finishing is an art, and it's a detail, and if you learn how to finish a house properly, and what the finishing does is really bring out all of the beauty. You can walk through a house and go, wow, that's a beautiful house. Every corner is detailed. Mm-hmm. You can't see any caulk that's missing or joints out of place. It's just really detailed. Yeah,
top-notch quality, healthy homes. And one thing I will say is I know of an organization, Kioba Ventures. They target young men, not necessarily even young, but they target Black men to build in Baltimore. They actually helped with the project that I worked on last winter. But to your point, there needs to be, a lot of those programs, since it's no longer in high schools like it used to be. Right. A lifetime ago when I had graduated. We're not going to talk about how long ago that was, right? But we know it doesn't exist today, and that those might be the reasons that you and I even are interested in development and forgot about that class. You know what I mean? Like, those are things that are nurtured, that are cultivated, that you have to kind of experiment to recognize what you're great at, what you're good at, what you're going to thrive in, what feeds your passion. So all these different programs, I think, are a great idea. Financial literacy, first-time home ownership, learning to build, specifically guys and women that know how to build. I think that would be a great idea too. Just a program for women that build, like Shelly, women who build. Kioba Ventures, like we said, they do that for just Black men. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, Veronica, I think we can have a Smalltimore Homes Habitat for Humanity like situation set up right here in Baltimore, and get some folks, hitting some hammers and building some healthy, renewable, sustainable, eco-friendly, futuristic, net zero, all those buzzwords, all the different buzzwords, and just, bring Baltimore back to that glory that it used to have once upon a time.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with you. I mean, when I went to school too, there was home ec and sewing. And at the time, and I remember going to high school saying that I wanted to take wood shop, and they wouldn't let me take wood shop.
Right.
I was a girl.
Wow.
That's what I wanted to take when I was in high school. And I remember telling Mom, I want to take wood shop. How come I
That is crazy. So by the time I got there, or maybe my school was different, by the time we had to do we didn't have to, but we chose 4 magnets and we rotated. Definitely wood shop. Yes, give me wood shop. Give me electrical stuff. Give me all the stuff that is tangible and makes daggone sense in the daily world, you know?
That's right. And you know what, really, truthfully, I believe that when you're a senior in high school, you should have that class. You should have that class on where you're going to live, because, you know, a lot of parents go, okay, you graduated, get the heck out of here.
Get out. Yeah.
College, you got to go. Where you going? You know?
Absolutely.
And so, that's one of the things that we should be teaching. And I understand why schools don't have that as a class. Maybe that's an after school class, but maybe that's something for you and me to go into the schools and figure out how can we take a cohort of kids and teach them, okay, all of you guys need to have a home. So, you know, why not find it now?
Yeah, no, I think. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, by the way, bring your parents to the workshop too.
Right.
So you come to the workshop and bring your parents to the workshop, and, you know, we're going to walk you through these steps.
I think that is a great idea. I actually, last month sometime, toward the beginning of the month, I did a financial literacy workshop that actually turned into a 45-minute speech. We're not going to talk about that, but the beauty of it is one of the giveaways, or one of the takeaways, I created a financial literacy workbook for, you know, graduating seniors. How do I open a bank account? How much does it really cost to get an apartment? What's the difference between a credit union and a bank? How do I know what my credit score is? But those were things that, you know, are the typical financial literacy, you know, building blocks. But the parents wanted the book and the workbook just as much as the kids did.
Right.
So to your point, yes, let's get in the schools, but bring the parents in as well, because they need this information just as much, even if it's just a refresher.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they need it too. And then when kids see that their parents are there, then maybe that would encourage them even more.
Right. And then they can have a conversation, and it can be something that they each can bring something to the table, and it's not a one side talking down, talking to, which a lot of kids, you know, that's when they don't receive, you know, messages well, because it feels like you're not treating me like like I'm an adult. You're not treating me like I know better. You're not treating me like I can retain information without you shoving it down my throat. So them learning together is like a building experience. Mm-hmm. It's time for the parents to bond. But most importantly, it's building those financial literacy blocks that you need so that intelligence can go toward building generational wealth.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head when you said generational wealth, because we definitely need to focus on that for our community and for our kids.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we really need to focus harder and get it into the schools. That way the kids can really get that opportunity, because rents in Baltimore used to be affordable.
And they are not. Veronica, as two things, a property manager and a makeshift social worker, because people know that I work with people who are housing insecure. Mm-hmm. This last month alone, I had to help a woman get about $13,000 in back rent and forward rent.
Wow.
And fees, like all of these different things that the apartment community was charging her, because she stopped paying when they had a flood. They flooded her apartment. Well, they didn't flood her apartment, but it was a flood. They didn't, resolve it. And she's like, hey, there's mold, there's mildew. I'm not paying you for this. They didn't fix it for weeks on end. So she stopped paying. Well, they just built up a case that, hey, she didn't pay rent, at this time. And now she owes all this money. And that's basically where we're at now. Yeah. I think that the eviction moratorium being lifted, we're going to see a lot of that. And like you said, once upon a time, Baltimore rents were affordable, and it's not necessarily the case now.
Yeah. It's the rents used to be very affordable in Baltimore City. And I think those...
Come back on screen. Where'd you go?
Uh-oh. Let's see. You lost me?
Yeah, it's okay. It looks like we're just about at 8 o'clock. I would love for you to come back on, but right now we're just getting a blank screen. Let me see.
Okay. Hold on. Let me try it again.
So while Veronica is trying to join us back, yeah, you were saying that there is another Caterpillar program coming this weekend. And if folks were interested, they can find details on Restoring Baltimore on Instagram.
Yes, Restoring Baltimore on Instagram, or they can email me at butterflyecohomes@gmail.com.
butterflyecohomes@gmail.com. Awesome. And then for Smalltimore Homes, what do we have going on? There you go. And she's back, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
There you go. Thank you. So Veronica, it was great talking to you. I wanted to remind the folks that Smalltimore Homes will be tomorrow at 3000 Hillen Road at 1 o'clock doing food distribution. We'll be there Friday as well. Also, 2555 Harford Road on Saturdays. Community cleanup on Saturdays as well at 1200 North Fremont at 8 a.m. And Walk with a Doc on Sunday, one of our newest programs. Smalltimore come out and move with us as we walk around Lake Montebello. And
I need to come.
Please do. 9 a.m. It's a great place to socialize and network. It's me and a few other Bunting fellows who began to organize it. And you know me, I just jump on. I said, wait, y'all need folks to come out and walk? We're going to get some Smalltimore out there. So come on and join us. Lake Montebello, 9 a.m. Sunday morning. We'll have our, the Daily Breads. I bring the Daily Bread with us too. So you get your dose of Jesus, y'all. Come on and show up. And Veronica, I can't wait till you come back on the show and we tell the folks about the different programs that we have available for them to figure out how to turn this Baltimore City around, honey.
That's right. We have to do something together. I can't wait to do some tiny homes. And I think everyone needs a tiny home in their backyard.
I think that's a great idea. Listen, and we can finesse and figure out how you can not get in trouble with Airbnb and, make some money off of that. Because again, the goal is generational wealth because we need to be thriving, not surviving, right?
That's right.
All right.
Thank you so much, Quida.
Yes, have a good one. Y'all stay safe, and we will be back next Monday at 7:05. Have a great one. Thank you so much, Veronica.
Okay, you too, Quida.
All right, we're off. Oh, are we?
Bye.
See ya.
See ya.